What's going on today on Captain's Comic Log? We are talking about something marvelous. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Captain's Comic Log here on Geek Devotions, a YouTube channel from devoted geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you are loved. My name is Captain Nostalgia. Normally, I am the host of the podcast Victims and Villains, the podcast where we talk nerd, we talk hope, and we speak nothing else. If you guys want to check out our show, the links are in the descriptions below. But this month, we are getting Brie Larson's take on Captain Marvel, and I thought that for a change of pace that I would do Captain Marvel, specifically the Dark Reign volume number 7 of Mrs. Marvel. And so, if you guys haven't figured out by now, I am a huge DC fan. Up until a couple years ago, DC was the only company that I would swear by. Even in this video right now, you can tell that I'm wearing a Batman hat. A lot of the content that we push out with Victims and Villains is DC based. And up till a couple years ago, I had a friend that knew that my two favorite DC heroes were Batman and Wonder Woman. And so we went to a con, and he picked me up a copy of Mrs. Marvel number 4 from the original 70s run, which is the first ever Miss Marvel series, which I am almost sure that that's correct. And I read it, and I was hooked, and I just started getting my hands on all of the Miss Marvel, all the Carol Danvers that I could. And so I am beyond excited for the Captain Marvel movie. I'm shooting this video before it actually the film actually comes out. I've been just intaking so much so quickly, and if you guys want to check out the Victims and Villains review of Captain Marvel, we'll have a link for that in the descriptions below. If you guys have seen the movie, make sure that you guys leave your thoughts below. But Brian Reed is one of the guys that turned out one of my favorite runs of this character. I just loved the way that he did this. He put out over just about 50 issues during the early 2000s. He took the character through some pretty amazing journeys, and one of which that we're talking about today, which is Dark Reign. So Dark Reign was this Marvel event that happened right after Secret Invasion, and basically Norman Osborn has gained significant power in the aftermath of Secret Invasion, and Reign chronicles Osborn's rise to power, but also on top of that, it also showcases his variation of the Avengers using various Marvel Universe criminals. And for this review, we are specifically, like I said, we're looking at the graphic novel here. We're specifically looking at issues 35 through 41 of Brian Reed's run. And throughout the course of this book, basically, Danvers has gone incognito, and one of Osborn's Avengers who takes up the mantle of Captain Marvel is a criminal known by Moonstone. And so one of the things that I found myself constantly admiring most about Marvel when I pick up these books is that they manage to draw in new readers at any point. Like, you can jump onto this, and Brian Reed does enough context work to where you don't have to have read Secret Invasion or Dark Reign or even any of the issues prior. You know where they're at within the series, and that's something that I think a lot of series kind of miss out on, and it's just a genius element that is added within this book. And any new reader can pick up this book. They have a very specific way of just bringing new readers in. And so issue 36, it does a fantastic job of laying the groundwork of how Carol Danvers has been affected by Secret Invasion, the Skrulls, and the up-and-coming Dark Avengers from Spider-Man Foe, Norman Osborn, Reed does a really fantastic job at slowly fading from one storyline to the next without the feeling of being rushed or suffocated. Like, everything has time to breathe. But he also knows how to balance the elements of these stories so masterfully and beautifully. Then the reader never feels lost, which is something that I love most about reading Brian Reed's run on Mrs. Marvel, is that he manages to feel the story but also welcome in the next arc. And when you look at the 38th issue, it's another great example. It is another terrific example of his handiwork, because it explores and gives readers a background of who Moonstone is already. That particular issue, it's really beautiful, poetic, and heartbreaking, all within the same breath. And if you ever get a chance at your local comic book store, that's one out of this storyline that I would recommend the most, is issue 38. And so one of the biggest downfalls of this book, though, is just the frequent change in artistry. So this volume contains 7 issues, and within those 7 issues you experience not 1, not 2, but 5 different artists. And the art of Patrick, I'm going to butcher some of these names, Patrick Orphy, who is the artist from 35 to 37. He has this really well-rounded art. It's extremely bright and smooth. And then you get to issue 38 and have art by Rebecca Isaacs. And the bright color palette still exists. Only now the smoothness of her predecessor, it isn't here. It's got a little bit more of a rougher tone to it. Isaac's art feels a little bit misplaced for this title. It kind of feels like it should be on a less mature title, so to say, especially with some of the subject matter that issue 38 starts to deal with. So then when you get into the 39 through 41 issue, you introduce this smooth and deep art of, again, gonna mispronounce these names, Sahan Dakata and Sergio Arnana. Their art styles, they feel reminiscent of Alex Ross and a colorful manga had an offspring. It's very bright, yet there's a sharp color palette to it, and the detail within the watercolor is beautifully personified. So they are definitely the highlights for the art of this book. But overall, Mrs. Marvel Volume 7, Dark Reign, is expertly written by Brian Reed. Reed manages to smoothly transition from Secret Invasion to Dark Reign without a hitch. He beautifully showcases the effects of the characters within, while managing to give context and background on all characters to any new readers or for forgetful ones, because let's be honest, sometimes that happens. You pick up, a month goes by, and you might have forgotten what happened in the last issue. Happens to me sometimes. While the storytelling in these issues are strong, the art is a little bit less, moving hands from 5 different artists within the span of 7 issues. The inconsistency in the art brings the quality of the book down just a little bit, though it hits its strength when it comes to issues 39 with some beautiful watercolors and ending with those watercolors as well. So for me here at Geek Devotions, I'm giving Dark Reign of Mrs. Marvel a 3.5 out of 5. So if you guys have read this, make sure that you guys, again, leave comments below and let me know. But more importantly, if you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, please reach out. Suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. There are 129 suicides that take place each and every day, and when you scale back internationally, there are 800,000 successful suicides. That's one death every 40 seconds. So if you or someone you know is struggling, you guys can reach out to us on any of our social media for victims and villains or Geek Devotions. Links for all of that stuff will be in the descriptions below. You can call the Suicide Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 or even text anonymously to 741-741. Alright, Devoted Geeks, that's all I got for you this week. You guys can click subscribe below on this channel. Check out a couple more videos. And until next time,